All right, I just wanted to ask about the challenge of guarding a guard like Jackson Shellstad. Like, curious what you guys have seen from him. Jack, you'll probably have more on-ball contact with him. Nolan, curious what your perspective is guarding from someone, down low when small guys coming at you.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll learn a lot in the next 2 days that is more scout-specific to him. But, obviously we're all aware of what type of playmaker he is and how he can shoot the ball and how willing he is on offense as both a playmaker and a scorer. So he'll definitely be an emphasis this week. But in terms of specifics, that will come more as scout progresses.
Excuse my phone there. Nolan, as far as your the emergence you've had this season, I guess I'm just wondering what's kind of been what do you feel has kind of been the most challenging part in terms of consistency and bringing that from game to game?
Yeah, I'd say just every night being ready to go, treating it like it's the biggest game of your life, last game of your life. Just not having the mindset going into it, just like, oh, it's just another game. Like having the consistency to be like, all right, like let's get ready to fight. It's gonna be a war tonight. So going in with my brother. So just having that consistent excitement and competitiveness with me brings a lot for my consistency, and that's something I've really worked on this year. And I think thus far it's been pretty good outcomes for that.
I'm sorry, real quick. Is there a phase of the game? Offense, defense, shooting, rebounding. Is there a phase of the game that's?
Yeah, I'd say ever since I was young, playing hard on defense and really locking in defensively, your offense will come with that. Whether that's rebounding, diving on loose balls, really just honing in on your matchup, doing whatever you can defensively. Offense will come, the ball will go through the hoop as long as you're playing hard. That's something my dad's kind of implemented in me. So playing hard at all times can help with the consistency and the ball going in. So it's kind of the big thing that I've kind of worked on ever since at a young age.
Jack, kind of over the last few games, but really over the course of the season, it feels like your role has kind of been up and down in terms of the minutes, the type of role you're asked to play. How do you kind of balance that, especially, in that Purdue game where it seemed like you had some more point guard responsibilities, and how do you balance maybe the different types of roles that you have to play in a certain game?
I wouldn't really say it's a balancing act. I say the preparation going into every game is the same, and, I can't control what opportunities I get, but the mindset of staying ready is really all I can have. Obviously, Killa getting ejected just sort of amplified my role that game, and the Illinois game also allowed for me to get in sort of a groove out there on the court. But I wouldn't say it's anything specific game to game. It's just staying ready.
Hey guys, just kind of a big picture question. So for each of you, if you could, just where have you kind of seen the most growth, like within each of your respective games, and how have Coach Gard and the staff really pushed you guys over these last 2 years?
Yeah, for me, this offseason, the coaches and Coach Steamsma and Coach Krabenhoff especially have really worked on with me my confidence coming from the offensive game. And, if shots aren't falling at one point, keep letting it fly and trust that my shot's been good. I've worked on it my whole life, so there's no reason I can't trust it. So the biggest thing for me would be my confidence in just every game, knowing that I am capable of shooting it and doing what I can offensively, putting the ball on the floor, doing everything, because that's who I am. I kind of consider myself a bigger guard. Coaches do too. So just giving me that confidence has really pushed me and helped me thrive my game and play at a high level.
Building off of that confidence piece, I would say our coaching staff has done a great job of implementing a system that, complements all of our strengths. And at the same time instills confidence in us to make plays and make shots, whether that be early in the shot clock, late in the shot clock. They've done a great job at allowing us to be aggressive within their system.
Jack, having to come in and kind of emulate Kamari's role a couple of games ago, I guess, what are the things that he does really well in terms of steadying the game when he comes in?
Well, obviously he makes a lot of corner threes. That goes without saying. His percentages there have been great, but I think everyone on our team would say he is our most consistent and peskiest defender. And, when you assign him a player, you can almost count on him being neutralized in a way, and that's comforting out there to be on the court with a presence like that. So his defense and his ability to knock down shots has been huge for us this year, obviously, and being able to sort of try and imitate that is all you can do following up his ejection.
For Nolan, I'm just wondering, coming from a Big Ten family, growing up in Big Ten country, I imagine you were around people who were familiar with the pace that Wisconsin had traditionally played at. What was the feedback you got from people when you were initially signed with Wisconsin regarding that, and just what have you heard from them lately, the way y'all been playing?
Yeah, growing up, like you said, Big Ten wasn't traditionally known as the fast-paced Showtime conference. It was more of the set your offense up, run it through, find all your options, maybe like wind down the shot clock, that kind of stuff. So for it to be this fast-paced kind of entertaining offense, it's been a blast to play for. I think all of our players can attest to that. It's been awesome to play for. And yeah, it's obviously a new thing that Wisconsin's kind of built and prided itself on. But this fast-paced offense only kind of contributes and helps all of our players' attributes in our games and really complements everyone well. So, yeah, I mean, the people may have said that, whatever, I was a traitor for going here and not going to Minnesota and all that. And whatever. I've had a lot of fun here, and Minnesota is obviously a great program, and they have a lot of tradition, but I'm glad I made this decision, and I love the people that I've gotten to know here and the relationships I've built with and the coaches that are here and the campus and everything about it. I've loved it so much. So, yeah, and I love the Big Ten. It's another thing, just the physicality and the teams and everything about it, the tradition. It's been awesome.
Jack, this team in the last handful of games has been really good in terms of, almost eliminating turnovers in the second half. There might be a spurt or so in the first half, and then it really drops in the second half. Can you speak to what changes? How do you guys go about, correcting, that aspect of the game?
I would say before every game, an emphasis that Coach Guard, it's either the first or second thing he says is, don't turn the ball over. In the last two games particularly, I think that we've just done such a good job of staying within our structure, which already allows for a lot of creativity. And in that, it also takes away some turnovers that can be, prevented. So I think John, Killa, Klez, even the bigs have just been so steady with the ball, and continuing on that would just be, it makes us really hard to stop when we get so many possessions that end in shots.
Nolan, a couple of times this year you guys have faced teams where both bigs can shoot the ball. Oregon's one of those teams. They have Nate Biddle, Brandon Angel, both of those forwards can kind of shoot. What are maybe some of the difficulties that that come with a team that can play five out like that, and how have you guys maybe, especially over the last few games, been better defensively, especially when it comes to maybe guarding some of those type of players?
Yeah, obviously it shows us challenges from having not as much maybe help responsibilities and needing to close out sooner to shooters. Obviously from when me and Steven are on the court too, I feel like teams have to respect that. So we know it makes it tough. We're firsthand. We know that experience. So having to be there on the shooters with the hand up, being able to guard the drive. We know Angel and Biddle are both capable of putting the ball on the floor and scoring at all three levels. So it's going to be a good challenge for us. What was your second part of the question? Oh, yeah. I think our connectivity defensively, just as the season went on, our communication, our togetherness, our toughness has really taken another level. We've had a couple games where in the locker room after it wasn't always the prettiest, and Coach Guard kind of got on us for our defense and our bite to us and our toughness, and we kind of took that to heart as a team, and we've kind of talked to each other about it, and ever since then in those games moving forward, we've really made it a priority that defense and good togetherness will bring solid offense, and shots will go in, like I kind of mentioned earlier. So yeah, I mean, it's just all the togetherness and communication that kind of has brought us this far.
No, there's been a lot of talk about how connected this group is. It seems like Kamari and Max are two of the loudest voices within that. I guess, how do they complement each other as leaders and kind of being the voice in the locker room?
Yeah, those two are awesome vocal leaders. Not only vocal, but when you're on the court, you know that they're going to give 110% every time they're out there, diving for loose balls, doing all the little stuff. So having them out there in the huddles, during free throws, they're kind of the voice that calms the waters a little bit and brings us together. And whether we're on a run or they're making a run, there's a sense of steadiness when they're out there, each one of them. So being in the same huddle and being on the same team, we're in the same uniform as them, brings a sense of calmness and, just kind of the thought that, everything's going to be okay with them out there. And, our team's very capable of listening. I think we have a very coachable team, so we don't care who's talking to us. We're going to listen, and we're going to go out there and fight for them.
Here, questions for either of you guys. Not sure if you were, excuse me, I'm not sure if you were watching, but the Badgers and the Ducks have faced each other multiple times over the past 10 years in March Madness, once in the NIT a few years ago. Question, do you guys watch any of those games? Is there anything that you remember about those games? Is there anything that, like any of your teammates remember about those games?
You got it.
I'm sure I watched all those March Madness games coming up as a kid and in high school, but we as a team aren't looking at that. The game is completely different. Our players are completely different. Maybe as a history assignment, I'll go watch it for fun because the games have been great. But this is a new team and a new year with a whole new identity, and they pose a lot of new threats, and we gotta focus on what's in front of us.
Yep.
For either of you guys in the back, so you go into Purdue and win at a place that is tough to do, and then you follow that up by snapping a 9-game losing streak to Illinois. How do you guys mentally reset after every game and kind of get locked in?
Yeah, Coach always says we can celebrate this one till midnight, and then after that, we're going to get locked in and ready for our next opponent because we know in the Big Ten there's no games off. It's any given night, any team can win, so we got to take each opponent with the utmost respect. And, throughout our scout and preparation with them, we got to be locked in every single day knowing that each and every night presents a new opportunity and a new challenge for us. So as a team, we've done a really good job of not letting our heads get too high and not letting our heads get too low when it comes to wins and losses. We're very steady-headed, and I think we've done a good job with that. And moving on with these final few games of the season, we're going to give it all we got, and we're going to prepare for each team like it's our Super Bowl because it's what it is, and it's a Big Ten. It's a fun conference to be a part of.
When you guys have faced some smaller guards throughout the year, they've been able to give you guys some trouble. I guess how are you kind of going in and trying to deal with Jackson Shellstad?
He's a really good player. He's obviously not the only one they have, but I think defensively, we've gotten better as the year's gone on. It's not necessarily always or exclusively the guy on the ball. We've gotten better in terms of ball screens. Now with Biddle, we'll pick and pop, much like Avicic did. So we'll have to contend with that. But I think holistically, defensively, we've gotten better in terms of better on the ball, better with the initial ball screen, better around it, helping those two guys that are involved initially in the ball screen. And then and obviously guys off the bench have helped us with that too. With Kamari, I think has been good and gives us a little change of pace. But Shellstad's a handful, Barthelomew's a handful. Obviously, when you got a big that's as good as Biddle is and shoots threes and plays at the rim and blocks shots, they're a really good team. I think you look at their record and say, well, they're 8-8 or whatever in the league, but they started 14 or 15-0. Beat some really good teams, beat Alabama, beat San Diego State. You go through the list, and now it looks like they're playing better like they did earlier in the year. So we'll definitely have our hands full and prep here today and tomorrow for them.
Warren Shellstad, I don't know if you've watched the recent Iowa game, but it was the first time that in a while that he didn't score 15.
Didn't score. Mm-hmm.
He's shown some of those games this season, where he's kind of shown some inconsistency. Mm-hmm. What have you seen in those games that you guys kind of try to copy and key in on?
Well, I haven't watched last night's game yet. I start back further in the year as we build, and I'll watch that one probably tonight or tomorrow. And then I try to also, you look at teams that are similar to you defensively. Iowa's not, so I don't know how much value we'll get out of that, but I'll watch it just to see because it's obviously a very recent game. But you got to look at what he does well and what gives him trouble, and sometimes just somebody has an off night, he doesn't score and they still score 80. So you look at. Sometimes they ask that about Steve Crowell for us. Well, he didn't score very much. Well, yeah, but we scored 85. So there's other things and other components that go into making their team good. And a team that can still score 80 when you have your point guard not scoring at all, obviously tells you the depth and the talent of the rest of the guys.
Greg, you touched on some of what he can do, obviously, but just what type of impact does a player like Biddle have when he can do a little bit of both? And what did you like that you guys did against Ivicic earlier this week?
Well, I think from Biddle's standpoint, he impacts the game on both ends. Leads our league, I believe, in block shots. He had 2 big ones last night, blocked Josh Dix's game winner at the end. I've seen him, and I haven't studied Oregon in depth up until the last couple of days, but just catching him, they run a lot of good stuff for him. They put him on the post and spread you out, and they'll throw over the top of you. He's really comfortable. Teams that try to double him, he's big enough at 7'1", and arms seem like they go forever, that he finds people over the top. And then obviously his ability to shoot it. Whenever you have somebody that big that can stretch the floor, that's such another level of a weapon, and obviously we've seen that with Steve and Nolan and what they can do, and that stress that puts on a defense, specifically when you have good guard play around it with Shellstad and Bartholomew, and Bamba and those guys. So it's, like I said, it's a good team. I think I don't get caught up in records. I look at who they played and what they've done, and you just watch them for a while. They're a very talented team.
Coach, defensively this year, you guys have averaged around 5 steals or so a game. Against Illinois, you guys felt like you guys were in those pick and roll, pick and pop lanes a good amount and kind of creating disruption there. 12 steals in that one. What did you kind of see from that department, and how do you think that can translate? I know steals maybe not necessarily, but just getting in the passing lanes like that, how do you think that can translate going forward?
Yeah, it's always game to game. Every game's a little different because even though schematically maybe we don't change, there's lineups that you can plug more off of. There's lineups that you have to be into the ball more. There's lineups that we can basically what we call spy. We don't have to basically not guard somebody and leave them in the lane longer to plug up things. So it really goes on a game by game basis. And I think when you see steal numbers go up, now we're not out in the passing lanes. We're not overplaying things. We're not extending pressure, but ball pressure is always important, right? And I've always said you never want to let a good player play without not being under pressure. So ball pressure starts, that's the point and probably the most important thing in our defense, aside from getting back and getting set with 5 guys, to make sure we got consistent ball pressure to get that passer or that dribbler a little uncomfortable, a little out of their zone that they want to play in, get them a little further out on the floor. Even if you move them by 3 or 4 feet, it disrupts an offense. So that's really where it starts with us. It's been the ball pressure has been better. And then guys, I think around the ball are understanding their roles. They follow the scouting reports really well. You've heard me talk about Gilmore and his ability to sniff things out and cover up others' mistakes. So it's a combination of all those things coming together. But the connectivity of this group has been really good. And they understand how important that end of the floor is, even though we score a lot of points. They know that defensively we have to be pretty rock solid every night.
Max is from an assist standpoint, his assists are up a little bit, but that doesn't always mean you're making. That doesn't completely show what kind of playmaker you are for others. So I guess one, assuming he is a better playmaker, where is he better? And in terms of being a playmaker for this team, does he go about it differently than maybe a John Blackwell or Tajay?
Yeah, I think obviously they're all a little bit different in how they do it. I mean, assists are going to be up because our scoring's up. So, more baskets equal more assists as a team. But I think Max specifically is becoming more comfortable or is more comfortable than he was, 2 years ago. I think the system has helped him. The spacing on the floor has helped everybody because we can really spread people out. And he's taken advantage of it. He's picked his spots. I thought he was really good down the stretch at Purdue, drawing a lot of contact and driving gaps, and he's strong and mature and can make free throws. So I think all those things have helped, but when you get really good scorers around you, your daylight to the lane and to the basket gets a little brighter, right? You don't see as much help or as much, they can't plug as much. Like I just talked about spying. Who are you going to spy off of on our team? I mean, it's a hard, you got to kind of pick who you're not going to guard. And the ability to move the ball and spread people out and play unselfishly and then attack when the opportunity comes is what Max has done a good job of recognizing and taking advantage of those opportunities.
What was it that triggered the decision to kind of adjust the offensive approach the way you have? Was it an evolving thing, or was there something you saw that made you realize?
No, there was nearly no epiphany, I would say, not an exact moment. I think it's been, I got asked about that this morning on a radio show, and it's probably was 3 years ago. I don't really have an exact date in mind, but just, we had kind of blended some of the continuity ball screen at a very elementary level, heck, back before Johnny Davis even played for us. And about that time, we were using it just as a supplement to some of the swing stuff we had done, and we had kind of migrated away from swing even before that consistently. We used it more as quick hitters and actions within it, and just watching how the game has evolved and changing, and rule changes have been a part of that. I think knowing where the college game is going or has gone, scoring was going to be, not that defense is not important, it is, but just where the trends were, you have to score. The teams that were going deep into March were scoring. So I think that's kind of where we had to find another way, or a little different way, but yet not at the same time not lose sight of who we are and our core principles and those things. And then just how players have maybe adjusted and adapted and developed a little differently. Everybody has a trainer for their left hand, and a trainer for their right hand, and a trainer for their jump shot. Nobody has a trainer for off-ball screening anymore. They all get trained in ball screens. And if you want to play professionally, you better be good in the pick and roll, or you better shoot threes. And then I think the other part of it, obviously, was how we've always kind of peaked at analytics, but really taking a deep dive and embracing some of that and really understanding it and getting underneath to the science behind it and studying that. And then, like I said, putting this together, and obviously Kirk coming here, a year and a half ago in the summer, it kind of it was starting there, but it picked up speed. And I think we're still, we're much further ahead than we were a year ago, or light years ahead of where we were, 3 years ago, but we still can grow and get better. And then the recruiting has become specific to it and very positional specific and intentional. So it's not one exact answer or one exact reason. It's been a kind of a combination of a lot of different things.
Zach?
Greg in the back.
Yeah.
The stretch that you guys are on, getting an emotional win at Purdue, then being able to turn the page quickly and snap a losing streak to Illinois, and now it's on to Oregon. How has this team maybe mentally been able to just kind of flip the switch to, okay, we won, now it's on to the next one? Does that come from the experienced veteran team that you have? Does that help that they're been there, done that before?
Yeah, that's a big piece of it. Maturity. I think just even in how we play, how we handle the ebbs and flows of a game is really anchored in maturity, and to be able to turn the page. And we were in December and we lost 3 in a row, but they turned the page really quickly after each one of them, knowing, here's what we got to get better at, and we got a lot of basketball in front of us. And they don't get too high, even though Purdue was emotional, and that was an awesome environment to be in. And I also don't want to take the fun away. So I'm not going to completely, all right, we're moving on to next. Let's not enjoy this. No, let them, those moments are special. And that's what this experience and journey is about, is those type of moments. And that's what they'll talk about for the rest of their lives. But then in due time, all right, now we move on to next. And they've done a great job of it. And I think, in large part due to their maturity and experience, and they know when it's time to have fun and when it's time to go to work, and knowing we got another opponent, no matter who it is, whether it's going to be Illinois or Oregon or whatever comes next, that we have to continue to improve, and the scoreboard always starts 0-0. So whatever happened behind you doesn't matter, and you can only control what's right here now.
Greg, the more success you've had this season, I've seen more comparisons to the 14-15 team. Not from a personnel standpoint, obviously, but do you see similarities? Just that team was so loose and fun. I don't know, is this team like that in any way? Do you see that
Yeah, I think the maturity jumps out, in terms of being able to balance, as I just talked about, balance it both, balance fun with work. That group did a great job of it. But you had a lot of talent on that team. You had a lot of experience. You had a couple fifth-year guys. There was a good combination. You had some younger guys that were boosting us off the bench a little bit, and that team could score too. That team could put up some points, and I think the game has changed. And I don't want to get into compare and contrast of then and now, because that was their time and this is these guys' time. But I think anytime you have a team that has experience and talent and they're connected, you have a chance to have some exciting times. And you can't have, I think you can't be missing one of those three. You can't be experienced and talented and then not be connected. We've seen a lot of talented teams that can't get it done on the court, and it's probably as glaring now as ever because of the NIL world and what, rumored budgets are of different teams across the country. And you can't be experienced and connected and not have talent, right? And I think when you throw experience in with it, because we've seen talented and connected teams that maybe don't have the savviness and the wisdom and experience of older groups. When you, like I said, it's unique when they all come together at the same time. And like I said, still keeping things in perspective. They know we'll watch the film today of Illinois, and I operate in a one day at a time mindset. I don't fast forward it, so there's no reason they're going to fast forward it. And we'll, like I said, watch the clips from the other night, and then hit the weight room, and then onto the floor and learn about and start preparing for Oregon.
The team turnover numbers have been good all season long, but using Purdue as a model, I mean, it seems like some of the few that you do get, come in bunches a bit. I guess, with Purdue and how little turnovers you were able to have, is there still growth to be had, even though you are at a good rate with turnovers, that you could get to an even more
A zero?
dominant? Yeah,
A zero?
Not zero.
Yeah, we have never had one here. We've had a 1. Not that Coach Krabenoff needs to be reminded that he was the 1 year against Michigan State on an offensive rebound. He claimed he got pushed out of bounds. That's why he stepped out of bounds. We go on not necessarily a number, Mike. We go on a percentage of possessions. So if you have 100 possessions, we're roughly in the 12% range, 13% of the possessions. So if we're fluctuating in that 10 to 13 realm, I also don't want guys playing tight where they're worried about turning the ball over. Now, if there's some obvious things like we're going way too fast or we driving into way too much traffic, then, obviously we get a little more critical in those moments. But otherwise, I want them to be aggressive. I want them to, I say all the time, let it rip, let it go. And I think when you start playing more instinctively and naturally, you actually have less turnovers than if you're playing wound tight and worried about making a mistake and worried about, looking over your shoulder all the time. It's typically we've had turnovers early in the game, and I think it's been because we're forcing too much, and also early, and we don't change size of the floor. You haven't distorted the defense, so they're loaded. They're waiting for you. They're in gaps. The backside is in, and so you have to be patient and let that offense through the possession and through a series of possessions, and sometimes that, it's an accumulation effect that you've heard me talk about of what an offense can do if we keep coming with the thrust and we call it an avalanche approach, what that impact has over the course of 40 minutes. And then offense typically gets a little easier, but trying not to force things early in games is usually where I find consistently we get ourselves in a little trouble. Well, no. I'm not saying force things. I'm saying still play aggressive but freely, but maybe not driving the first side or driving the second side, because defenses, just like any good defense, is going to be there. You want to distort them. You want to get them in help and recover situations. You want to get them caught in closeouts. Well, you aren't going to catch them in closeouts if you're driving it on on the side that it's on, right? So having the understanding of that fine line between staying patient but yet being aggressive. So typically when we get ourselves in trouble, we're trying to drive through too many bodies and too many hands, and it's usually early in a possession. If I freeze the film, I go look at the shot clock. It's at 22 or 23. Look how many opposing jerseys are staring at the ball or are loaded towards the ball. You know, defensively, we always try to play 5-on-3. We want 5 defensive bodies loaded up against 3 offensive bodies. So we'll flip it, you know, the other way. You don't want to play 3-on-5 offensively. And so trying to get those numbers more balanced where you're playing 2-on-2 and, you know, single side ball screens, those type of things. It takes time of changing sides of the floor. And quite frankly, it takes time of just wearing on a defense over the course of the game.